Hey, what's up? Dusk here. So today we're going to talk about Sumo Nottingham leaving Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a new development studio, Black Tower Studios, moving in. That's kind of a weird situation because normally a development studio doesn't just walk away from their game and hand it to another studio for free. But things are a little different with Gun Media because they do things a little bit differently. They're listed as the publisher, and Sumo Nottingham was listed as the developer, but that's not actually true. Gun Media is actually the developer and the publisher, and what they like to do is just outsource everything because they don't have anybody on staff that knows how to code or work with the game engine or do artwork or any of the skills required to actually make the game. They just like to do the designing process. But it's their money, and if that's how they want to do things, that's fine. The only downside to doing things that way is it's not as efficient from the money standpoint. But we're going to talk about a tweet that Wes Keltner put out, and we're going to talk about Black Tower Studio and Sumo Nottingham a little bit. And then I'm going to speculate on what this means for the future of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So first, let's talk about this tweet where this is just a basic sales tweet for the most part. Like sold a bunch of copies. 5.6 million total players. Of course, 4.5 million of those are Game Pass, and if you just clicked the download button on Game Pass, you counted as a player, even if you never actually played the game. But still, they sold 1 million copies, so that does mean like a good chunk of revenue. And that they can comfortably, get through the year, which is what we're going to talk about next, which revolves around this. 2024 is going to be a good year for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I think this is a reference to things that Wes Keltner has said in the past. He said that they have enough content planned for exactly 1 year of development from August to August. And if the game sold well enough or was generating enough revenue, then they would do another year of development, and then that would continue, so on and so forth, right? So I think basically what this is confirming that they're looking good to finish up that full year. They're going to make it to August, no problem. I think trying to reassure people that switching development studios isn't really that big of a deal. And then, it just kind of backs it up with a little bit of the sales fluff here. I have no doubt that that's going to be enough revenue to justify finishing up the year and doing all that. So if you're enjoying Texas Chainsaw Massacre, don't worry. I don't think they're going to announce that they're going to shut down next month by any means. I think they're gonna make it all the way through to August at this point. But will they go on beyond that? Well, to get some good speculation going on that, we need to talk a little bit more about Black Tower Studio themselves and Sumo Nottingham. So let's take a look here. Black Tower Studios. I had to do a little bit of digging because there's also a Russian company called Black Tower, and they also make video games. So I had to make sure that I'd got the one that was based in Tokyo, Japan. So this is the Black Tower Studio that is working with Gun. They've worked with Gun in the past. They've got a bunch of info here, but none of this is really important. The most important thing is this number right here, that they have less than 25 employees. But I know that Sumo Nottingham had around 30 or a little over 30 when I looked up their numbers, if I recall. So this is a smaller studio, right? Plus Sumo Nottingham is part of a larger conglomerate on top of that. But yeah, so the big takeaway here is that they've changed studios to a smaller studio. But also, if you go to Black Tower's website, you can see a list of games that they've worked on. They don't have all their games listed there, though. But the ones that they do have there are some of the more notable ones. Or maybe if you do enough digging, they do have the other stuff. I didn't dig as much because somebody else in my Discord did some of the digging for me, PH. Pointed out that a lot of the stuff that Black Tower Studio does is they're hired to help port games to console, or maybe vice versa, port to PC, but they do a lot of work with other studios to help port stuff. But Black Tower has made some of their own games before. They did make a 3D game called Spellbreaker, but that one fell pretty flat, unfortunately. But they made a 2D side-scroller that was basically a love letter to Castlevania that some people say maybe did Castlevania better than Castlevania. So it was like, it was a really good game. So they do have like some accomplishments under their belt. They seem like a capable studio. They've been around for a long time. I think they're just cutting costs and maybe picking up a studio that might have a little bit more experience with fixing bugs on a cross-platform scenario. It could also be that Sumo isn't as good at fixing bugs on a fully cross-platform environment. But Black Tower Studio, being that they do a lot of porting, is probably a little bit more familiar with that environment. So, what we're going to look for is in the next patch, if the bug fixes seem a lot more substantial, if it feels like the game is cleaner and functioning a lot better, in other words, the bug fixes are actually sticking and not generating a bunch of other bugs in the process, then we can see, like, as a net whole, a lot of improvement in the quality of life of the game, and that could lead to player growth. Or we could see about the same. It's a difficult frame to work within, and they do get bugs fixed, but then, new bugs pop up. And sure, the game improves, but it's a bit of a seesaw process and a very slow improvement. And if that's the case, Texas will probably keep running at about the player base that it's running at now, which is a strong but small niche audience that is, for the most part, keeping the game at a pretty playable level. But again, that only lasts for so long, and eventually even, really supportive player bases do dwindle down. So, is there going to be a next year for Texas Chainsaw Massacre? My prediction on that is I don't think so. I think they finish up in August, and I think they call it there. I think they're going to be really happy with their year run. I think they're going to, be really thankful to all the players that came in for the ride. But I think at the end of the day, they've got their costs and then they've got their profit, but the profit probably won't be high enough that they can pay out and budget an entire another year of development and then feel confident enough that that will then also generate enough profit to make that back plus a little bit extra so that they can have said the game was successful. Because if you're not pulling a profit, then you've got a failed game, right? So my prediction is that the game ends in August. So if you do want to play the game and you're curious about it, buy Texas Chainsaw Massacre now, or buy Helldivers 2 and spread democracy. Anyway, that does it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.